Right, evening everybody, and thank you for coming. Welcome to tonight's Manydown Overview Committee meeting. Before we start, I've got a mammoth spiel to read out to you, so please bear with me for a moment. I am Councillor Robinson, the Chair of the Manydown Overview Committee, and I'd like to welcome everybody to this meeting, which is being held virtually in accordance with the Council's rules for virtual meetings, which reflect the recently published government regulations. The meeting is being streamed live on YouTube and will also be available to view after the meeting has finished. Councillors who sit on this committee are identified by name on screen, and I will introduce the officers by name before they address the committee. Councillors are reminded that although this meeting is being held remotely, they are regarded as being present at the meeting of the Council, and they should observe the normal rules of behaviour under the Members' Code of Conduct and not allow members of their household to distract them during the course of the meeting. Can members ensure their mobile phones are switched off or are on silent? Members of the committee will turn on their video link during the meeting and keep their microphones muted unless they are invited to speak by myself as chair. Members are reminded that if they switch off their video link or move away from the camera, they will be treated as leaving the meeting and will not be able to take part in any vote taken on the item under discussion. Members can indicate they wish to speak by raising their hand and should only speak when I, as chair, invite them to do so. The officers present will only switch on their video link during the item that they are presenting or when they wish to be invited to speak by the chair. As chair, I will confirm the name of any visiting speaker at the appropriate time in the agenda who will address the committee by audio link. Councillors should declare that they are leaving the meeting and switch off their video link if they have a disclosable pecuniary interest or other personal interest in the item on the agenda. The councillors can switch on their video link when I call the next agenda item. Voting will be taken by roll call, and I will confirm the recommendation proposed to the committee before voting begins. Can each member indicate they are for or against the recommendation, or whether they wish to abstain? Hopefully, we will not have any IT problems, but can I remind councillors that if their connection is lost, they should immediately advise the Democratic Support Officer and use the meeting link to access the meeting again. That's the bit I need to read out. My screen does not show all of you at one time, so I will be swiping backwards and forwards. So if I miss a speaker, please let me know. I will do my best to make sure you all get your fair chance. Right, item 1 on the agenda is appointment of vice chair for the 2021 municipal year. Have we got any nominations? No, I can't see any hands up, in which case I will nominate Councillor Gavin James for that post. Could I have a seconder? Thank you. Seconded by David Leaks. And is everybody content with that? Everybody agreed? Raise your hands.
Luckily, I'm content with it because I wasn't consulted, but I'm happy to do it.
Sorry about that, Gavin. You've done it for a few years, so I rather assumed that you would be happy to continue. I'm pleased you are. Right, that's agreed. So Councillor Gavin James is vice chair for the coming year.
Chair, sorry,
Yeah.
you've missed apologies for absence.
Did I miss that? Okay, in that case, sorry, my apologies. Apologies for absence and substitutions. I've been given one, which, if I'm right, we have Councillor Freeman replacing Councillor Cooper. Yeah, everybody content with that? Great. Declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest? There are none. So, urgent. Oh, Councillor Leaks.
Yes, I'm declaring interest on the item 7, Southern Manydown, as I'm a governor at the hospital, and you may be discussing things about it.
Okay, thank you. So I assume you will be switching off your video link during when we discuss that item.
I certainly will.
Thank you, Councillor Leeks. That's great. Anyone else? No, can't see any others. Urgent matters, I have none. Anybody else have anything? I'm switching back from screens to screen, so no urgent matters. That's good. We can get this over relatively quickly. Minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of February 2020. I think they're accurate. Everybody else happy with them? Could I have a proposal for those meetings, for those minutes?
I'll propose them or second them, whatever.
Okay, thank you. That's done. I will sign those at some point. Quite when, I'm not sure, but they will get signed when I'm in the office one day. Great. Manydown North project update report. Councillor Isaac.
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, fellow councillors. I hope everyone can hear me clearly enough.
Loud and clear.
Good. Today, the 29th of July, is a big day for this project, because not only have we obtained outline planning permission, as the report states, but also today, as councillors know, we've signed with the private sector partner Urban and Civic. So it's a live project now. It's official, and I'm sure that in selecting Urban and Civic, we've got one of the top master planners in the country, and I'm sure they're going to prove how good they are in working with us in the years ahead. And I'm also very pleased that we've got one of the world's great charities in the Wellcome Trust showing their confidence in Basingstoke by putting their signature to the agreement, because they're going to provide us with the long-term finance that the project's going to need as we go through all the ups and downs over the years in delivering this project. Just a few words about Development Control Committee meeting. I think that what was particularly notable about that was that while there were issues raised before councillors by residents and by other councillors relating to implementation of the development, issues around construction, traffic and rat running and that sort of thing, which are all important issues which we're going to need to continue to address. The point that I really took away from it was that no one was challenging the principle of developing Manydown North, which I think says a lot about how good the work done by officers and councillors over the years in listening to residents and seeking to meet their concerns has been achieved with the process. Clearly, it's important that there's no delays and we get on with things. And one of the big next steps is to finalise the Section 106 and all the contributions that the project will be making in terms of provision of education and facilities for the new residents on Manydown North, mitigation and improvements to the road network. So that's got to be moved forward at a pace, and I'm pleased that we can now bring on board Urban and Civic to help us achieve that, working with our colleagues in the LPA and Hampshire County Council for that matter. Another key aspect of this will be the planning strategy, and that starts with site-wide strategies and frameworks, which cover things like the layout, land use and character and appearance of the proposed development. That'll be followed by a submission of the key phase proposals for each phase of development that we're going to be undertaking. DevCo, which is the operational body that's going to be charged with taking forward the management of the development, can now be established. It's been in shadow form. That is, as you know, is constituted by the two councils on the one side and Urban and Civic and Welcome Trust on the other, with both parties having one vote. So it's 50-50. And they're amongst their priorities for the next will be implementing the interim business plan over the next 12 months. That DevCo board will be meeting 6 weekly. Another key priority is bringing forward the country park, 250 acres, which will offer really, I'm sure, a valued recreational, ecological and amenities for all our residents. So DevCo will consult with the two councils, councillors, MOC and wider stakeholders to develop a site-wide country park strategy to establish the principles and shared aspirations for that. On important ecological matters, we've made a lot of good progress over the last months in planting up the natural corridor to the west of the site, planting 24,000 trees and shrubs. Continued public engagement must remain a key feature in terms of realising the Manydown development. And we're now working with Urban and Civic to agree a new comms plan. 4.2 of the report gives a progress update on procurement. Much of that has obviously now been overtaken by having signed the agreements with Urban and Civic and Welcome. The two councils overriding board, the Manydown Garden Communities LLP, or what we used to know as TopCo, is meeting regularly. In fact, we had a meeting on that with Hampshire today. That's been meeting since February 2019. The long form members agreement will now be entered into following the signature of the contract the contracts with Urban and Civic, and work that has been done in the last few months has covered delegation policy, estate management strategy, financial procurement and procedures. In future, TopCo will review and, where appropriate, approve DevCo's outputs. There's also, of course, the issue of the drawdown of the land, which will follow completion of the Section 106 agreement, and that work is ongoing, and it's a subject of a confidential update to MOC, which I think is Appendix 1. Section 5 of the report, in view of the imminent finalisation of governance structures for Manydown North and early work to promote Manydown South, there's been a review of governance arrangements, and those proposals are set out in Appendix 2. The proposals for Manydown South include a liaison group with the Society of Merchant Venturers, who are the major landowner with land adjacent to the two councils' land interests in southern Manydown. further information about that in the next report that we'll be considering at this committee. It's important that the lessons are learnt from the experience in getting to this key stage of the Manydown North project, so we can learn what went well and what didn't go so well, and take advantage of that, not only in how we proceed further with Manydown North, but also particularly in relation to how we take forward Manydown South. So work on that will take place with key participants, with an update to come to MOC proposed in the autumn of this year. There's also a section here covering in 5.3 environmental sustainability. At Manydown, we aim to achieve high standards in minimize carbon emissions, and the work will continue on that to define and agree measures now that we have a private sector partner on board. Obviously, we've been talking to Urban and Civic in the meantime, and they're fully aware of the two councils' declarations of climate emergency. So an important aspect of this will be the establishment of a Manydown standard to ensure that Manydown is a low carbon sustainable community with reduced energy demand. And the Manydown standard is intended to be a leading innovative approach to delivery of sustainable housing. The two councils have appointed a specialist consultancy team to help formulate the Manydown standard, which obviously we will need then to discuss with Urban and Civic. And again, it's proposed that there should be a briefing on this to MOC in the autumn. The report also deals with costs. The Manydown costs are jointly funded 50-50 to this point by the two councils. Some of that will be recoverable as part of the land value calculation when we draw down, i.e. purchase the land from the Manydown company. A further element is recoverable as advanced procurement costs and will be recoverable from the joint venture development vehicle with Urban and Civic. Further work is required to obtain planning and complete procurement, and that's going to result in, sorry, let me start again. Further work was required to obtain planning and complete the procurement, not least because of the impact of COVID-19. And so the report references an additional drawdown from the housing reserve for Manydown of £650,000. As to the future, it's proposed that this committee will be updated on both Manydown North and Manydown South. And in terms of Manydown North, where appropriate, the development manager from DevCo, who will be an Urban and Civic employee or director, will be invited to present to MOC. And that, if I can, I'm being bothered by flies in here. But that concludes my my report to councillors.
Thank you very much, Councillor Isaac. I believe next we have a public speaker, Mr. Lee. If Democratic Services can put him on, that would be really helpful.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Is that Mr. Lee?
Hi, yes.
Yep, I can hear you loud and clear. You have 2 minutes and I will warn you when you're down to 30 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. Well, here we are again, another overview committee and another opportunity for me to express my frustration and concerns with what are happening here. I would ask the Cabinet member if he really thinks that in general there were no voices against the principle of the plans, or whether he and this council just haven't been listening to the voices. Many people...
We appear to have lost you.
Hello?
Yeah, sorry, you're back. Good.
Hi,
Carry
sorry. Yeah, many people across the borough are frustrated with the scale and the size of the developments that are happening, and residents of Winkleby feel, quite rightly, that developments are being imposed on them without due regard to the needs of the local community. Manydown, the Winkleby Centre regeneration, plans for 20 homes at the bottom end of Roman Road, and only on Friday the revelation that commercial units may be transformed into residential flats. The reason that there were no voices against wasn't that there aren't any. It's because they are of the opinion, why bother, this council doesn't listen. Many others were frustrated that the time allocated to them at the Development Control Committee wasn't sufficient enough, and others, like myself, rather than oppose the plan in general, as it was likely to be approved anyway, tried to use the opportunity to alert councillors of the impending risks and issues there are with the plans as they stand. For the information of this committee, residents and I wanted to shape the outcome regarding issues such as having site traffic accessing the development through entrances on Roman Road, causing a potential risk to safety, and major delays for residents of the immediate area. It was already acknowledged that the Wellington Terrace junction is dangerous as there are plans to close the top end of Roman Road, yet HGVs will be passing that location day in, day out for a minimum of 5 years before the northern access is opened up. For 5 years, residents of nearly 1,000 homes will struggle to get out onto the road. That is their primary means of ingress and egress. I note that the report suggests a flexible approach to transportation, but this seems code word for we will deal with the issues as they arise. When will this council stop putting out fires as they happen and think upstream to prevent these issues from arising in the first place? It may work out cheaper. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee, and thank you for being absolutely spot on time. Questions to Mr. Lee. Does anybody have any? I don't see any hands up at all, so thank you very much, Mr. Lee.
Do you want me to respond?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Lee. And I did reference the fact that at Development Control Committee meeting, there were questions raised by residents, including yourself, about issues involving the impact of the development. But the point I was making was that I think that my understanding is that generally people understand that we need to provide more housing to meet the needs of our residents. And yes, I accept that there will be impacts, particularly on neighbouring communities, and that's why we took so long and very long time listening to residents and trying to alleviate some of the concerns that have been expressed. Clearly, we can't achieve everything. We can't do a development and with all the impact that's going to have without some people quite understandably wishing it wasn't going to happen. But I give you an undertaking that I'm very ready with officers to sit down again with you and try and see what we can do to minimise the impact of some of the concerns that you have. So I hope you will take up that offer because it's genuinely meant.
Thank you very much. Questions to Councillor Isaac on item 6 on the agenda. Do we have any? Councillor James.
Thank you and good evening, Councillor Isaac. Thank you for the presentation and report and the progress you're making in Manydown. It did all start in 1996 and I think the pace does need to increase. And I do accept, whilst it's always going to be difficult to please everybody, I think the council is trying to do what it can at the moment, but it's important we keep hearing these voices and listening to them. My question really relates to 3.3, the country park, and it's quite a long-term in the future answer to a question, but I think we should always ask these questions soon, rather than suddenly find we've got a problem. Country parks are generally run, operated, owned, etc. by the county council. So will the county council take over the country park, or will it be a borough council thing? So who's going to do the maintenance when it's created? And also, as a rule, the county council these days charge for parking at country parks. Now, personally, I think that the local residents, they'll probably walk to the park, cycle to the park, and that's a great thing. And it'll actually manage flow if they do have a charging for car parks. But of course, what we don't want is Hampshire County Council picking up the money for charging for a car park, and then the Basingstoke and Dean Borough Council paying all the maintenance for years to come to maintain the park. So I was just wondering what conversations have happened, or what conversations you are now going to have to make sure we're not in a situation sometime down the line where we haven't worked that one out.
Right, Chairman, shall I respond?
Yes, please.
Yeah, you're dead right, Councillor James. We do need to pick up the pace on this, and that's where urban and civic come in. And so, absolutely, we've got to get to a point where we're building homes and people who are taking possession of them. On the country park, it's up for grabs, I think, and there's no automatic view that it should be run by Hampshire County Council, and so I think that's part of the process that now needs to go on about in terms of talking to councillors and other stakeholders about how best to what the best model for running the country park is, to ensure that it achieves all the best and highest hopes we have for the country park, including minimising the costs to our residents wherever possible. I don't know, Andrew, have you got anything more you could add to that?
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Yes, I mean, you said very well in terms of that there's no decision yet. I think it's probably worth pointing out to members that the land associated with the country park will sit in the Manydown Garden Communities LLP joint venture. So the control of that and the decision for the future will rest in there. And that's important. So no decision has been made who and how it should be managed. I think we're very conscious that there is always going to be a cost to maintaining country parks, and how we raise revenue to support that is going to be important. But we also recognise that there are challenges around charging for car parking and the access for people that who may not be able to afford that. So at this point, there is no decisions on any of that have been made, but they are all part of the thinking that is going on and will emerge as part of a country park strategy by DevCo through the Manydown Garden Communities board for consideration over the course of the next 12 months. So it will emerge for discussion with MOC members during the course of the next 12 months. Thank you.
Thank you to you both. Councillor James, do you have a supplementary at all?
Almost, but I think Andrew sort of came in there at the end with some sort of guide of a deadline. I'm just really worried that obviously massive impact on the people of Winklebury and the surrounding areas, and they'll get a lovely country park. It's probably one of the biggest selling points of this, that they actually gain something out of the development. And at this stage, we're not entirely sure, once there's 3,500 homes in the country park there, what happens to that country park afterwards. And there could be a lot of, we don't want to be in a situation where we've got two local authorities saying that's a big bill that's going to cost us every single year. We don't want that. That's the other one's responsibility. At some point very soon, we need to say who is going to sustain that, because in 30 years' time, it will just become a dump if it's not maintained by somebody and somebody signed up to maintain it. That's the only concern I have. And I think that needs to be, or perhaps a question to Andrew is, can that become more urgent to reach agreement? Who's going to pick up the bill for running it into the long term?
Thank you.
Well, Councillor James, I mean, I said sort of the strategy that will come forward in the next 12 months. It's a key priority, one which Urban and Civic are very keen to move relatively quickly on. So I would like to think within the next 6 months, we will be having a dialogue on what the principles are around the country park, which will include the management. So it is something that's very live in Urban and Civic's mind at the moment. They see the country park as a real asset, as you very rightly identified. I think how we begin to develop it, how we link that with Winklebury and other communities, and the the green connections, the green corridors that make this a place where people can walk and cycle to, not just about driving to, is going to be absolutely imperative. So we're very conscious as a project team and with Urban and Civic, that this is a key aspect for members, and we will seek to obviously move quickly on this now with Urban and Civic. But as I say, there is a timescale of 12 months with them that has been agreed contractually, but we will work to try and obviously move that through quicker where we can do.
Thank you.
Just to confirm, Gavin, that as far as the administration is concerned, it's the top priority. We resolve it and we get some clarity about it. And as Andrew says, there doesn't seem to be any reason why one party to the agreement, the development agreement, should be put in charge of running it.
Thank you, John. Councillor Chris Tomlin.
Thank you, Chair. And again, thank you, Councillor Isaac, for your report. And it is good news. We got planning and you've got this contract signed at last. So we're moving forward. My question really from your report is, who is going to be sort of leading, working on the Manydown standard that you referred to? And obviously you said we're going to get some sort of feedback in the autumn. I'm just hoping that, the expectation perhaps of many members would be that this will embrace some forward thinking and innovation and embrace current or emerging technologies, so that there are no shocks and we don't end up in a sort of long debate when it comes to reserve matters. So can you just sort of elaborate for me, please?
Yes, absolutely, Councillor Tomlin. Well, it's the two councils who are working on this at the moment. We've appointed the experts to start to shape the Manydown standard, and in fact, I had a presentation on it today at the MGLC, the Manydown Garden Communities Board. We obviously need. Because it's going to be a 50-50 partnership with Urban Civic and Wellcome Trust, we're going to need to work with them and bring them on board. Yes, it's got to be an opportunity for forward thinking. It goes hand in glove with our desire to have high quality homes and well designed garden town community at Manydown. I think the other point I'd make, though, is that Urban and Civic are no slouches when it comes to all these sorts of things. Anyway, if you look at some of the developments they're bringing forward across the country, they're well tuned into the benefits of building high quality, sustainable homes, not least because they're more attractive to people who want to live in them, so I'm optimistic that we will be able to bring forward a Manydown standard that will meet with the approval of councillors. But I don't underestimate the how high the bar is with net zero, carbon net zero commitment for 2030 in the borough. And ultimately we've got to make sure that we can achieve all those desirable environmental standards, but do it in a way that is financially viable. And so, but those are the sorts of challenges we have to meet in order to achieve a sort of objective outcome.
Okay, well, yeah, that's great. Perhaps in our presentation in the autumn, then we could see some of the worked examples or demonstrations. Perhaps that could be included. It would be very useful to have a sort of portfolio of where they've come from or where they're going. That would be good.
Is that something we can do, Andrew?
Yes, Councillor Isaac. I think, well, there's probably two elements to this. One is our presentation on the Manydown standards, so that the work that the two councils have done to bring this forward, which will be in advance of the government policy on standards in 2025. So this is where we move ahead and advanced of government changes in policy. But importantly, I think the second strand would be where urban and civic sit as part of their thinking around moving towards zero carbon. And as you quite rightly pointed out, there has to be the balance between what is achievable from our perspective in delivering Manydown, the viability and the reliance on the third parties. So in terms of how green is the grid, and our reliance on the decarbonisation of the grid. So, while some elements are within our ability to make and improve, there are some elements that are not. So there will always be a challenge around this agenda. But I think we have embraced it. UNC will embrace this as we move forward, so that we can do something that is different on Manydown to the standard delivery of development by developers.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else got any questions on item 6? I'm not seeing any hand. Oh, Councillor James.
Chairman, just to throw complete confusion, I do have a question, but it's actually on page 31, which is pink. I don't know how that works in this world. If it doesn't, I'll have to email the officers, I guess.
Thank you. We will be dealing with confidential items at the end of this meeting. We will be going into private session. Councillor Mahaffey.
Chairman, thank you. So I did raise an electronic hand. I don't know if it got noticed.
I can't,
but thank you.
So wave at me.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say congratulations to Councillor Isaac and officers for a job well done, getting it over the line. I know it's been rumbling on for a very long time, but I know an awful lot of work goes into pushing it over the last few meters. But having said that, it's not the last few meters. It is the first hurdle that we have to get through. And I recognise that there is now going to be an awful lot of work. And my question really is around the governance of that work. I'm looking at section 5, where it describes the governance around the ongoing programme. Clearly, Topco, Devco are going to be meeting very frequently now. They're going to be making an awful lot of decisions. And there's a number of other boards and committees that are cited there. Now, I'm not saying this has happened in the past with in regards to Manydown, but my experience of oversight committees is very often, if you only meet quarterly or 6 monthly or however often we meet, then papers are presented to you as a sort of fait accompli. This is what we've done over the last 6 months, and you end up in a bit of a complicated situation if you disagree with it. So my question really is, how can we be kept informed? How can we be involved in this on a more ongoing basis? And the thing that springs to mind immediately is, can we be copied into the minutes of Devco or Topco, either confidentially or publicly, so that we're prepared and there are no surprises come up?
I don't mind whether Andrew or John answers that one.
I'll start. Yeah, I think, the point here about bringing in a development partner is that ultimately we are relying on their expertise to deliver in accordance with business plans and what they tendered on the basis of. And therefore, I don't think that we can get ourselves, or we should get ourselves into a position as councillors to try and sort of micromanage this process. I think the role of, and it's an important role of committees like MOC, is to review what's been going on by the people charged with delivering this. And if there's things that have been done that are inconsistent with the plan, or where there have been failings, to draw attention to that. But I don't think we can get into a position where we're being relayed week by week minutes of DevCo as it seeks to go about its business of delivering the project. I don't know, Andrew, have you got anything to say? He'll probably say it in somewhat more officer diplomatic terms, but
if I could just interrupt for one moment before you go on, Andrew, we appear to have lost. Oh, she's back. We lost you for a minute then, Laura. Okay, carry on, please, Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Isaac. I mean, the minutes specifically, they are technically separate companies to the borough and the county council, and therefore they must be run in accordance with those rules that are set out. So we would not share the minutes beyond the members that sit on the board or the respective boards of those two entities, because of the nature of the way the business will be run. However, I think one of the really important aspects that the project team have worked through around governance is the importance of continuing that engagement with the Manydown Overview Committee. We've looked at the timeline for the interim business plan, and what will then emerge will be the overarching business plan that DevCo will produce. You will have oversight of that overarching business plan before Cabinet signs it off as part of the annual process. Within that, there will be a work plan of key elements that you or we as officers would recommend that you would want to have sight of and engagement with. So we would put that as part of the forward programme. So if there are items missing, you can certainly identify those and we can make sure we include them on the forward programme. I think as also Councillor Isaac referred in his earlier report, that we have already engaged the prospective or the now development manager, because some of the work that they will be doing, we have asked that they do bring back through MOC as part of a consultation and engagement, so that you are engaged in that process. There's a little bit of work to be done, obviously, how this governance structure settles down, but ultimately, I think we are respectful that MOC has an important role to play, and we will need to make sure that this works effectively. So I'd like to think that we can work together to make sure that the forward programming meets your needs in being involved in some of the key elements of work that come through.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions on item 6? No, everybody happy? Good. Okay. In that case, we all note the progress that's been made, and I think we're all delighted with the progress that's been made. The two comments that really stand out for the next meeting in October, if we could have some sort of information on where we're going with this management of the country park, and a bit more information on the management of the Manydown standard, that would be really helpful at the next meeting. I also believe we've got somebody coming in from the Educational Authority to the next meeting, so that we're good. So everybody happy? We will move on to item 7. First of all, I need to remind you that there are confidential papers in the appendixes, your pink papers. So if people wish to ask questions on those, we'll need to go into private session. But we have a public speaker in attendance, so we will do the private session at the end of the debate, just before we close. So if I could ask Councillor Isaac to give us a project update on Manydown South.
Thank you, Chairman. So there have been further proposals to promote Manydown South as part of the new local plan update. This report also starts to address the future relationship with the other major landowner in southern Manydown, the Society of Merchant Venturers. As councillors know, the Manydown South land is the land south of the railway land, and it's not currently allocated under the local plan. In 2012, the council did, however, approve the resolution to pursue the development of Manydown as a whole. As a landowner, we responded to the LPA's call for sites, which closed on the 3rd of July 2019, in terms of putting forward the principle of development of southern Manydown. At the February 2020 mock meeting, the project director gave a verbal report on the process of initiating the southern Manydown project, following the Manydown Executive Committee's approval to establish the project in December of last year. That was followed by a briefing paper to mock about the planning strategy for Manydown South. What's has happened since is that a detailed project management plan is being finalised, and that will look at how in future we will take forward our proposals for Manydown South, so that we can, with the aim of getting it included in the as allocated land in the local plan update. So we've appointed professional and technical advisors, and we're now starting to look at the emerging master plan options, including working with the Society of Merchant Venturers where applicable, and also including any cost sharing arrangements that would need to be made. Section 4 of the report deals with the proposed project governance arrangements. Section 7 covers the financial and budgeting issues. I think just to conclude that Manydown South, because of its scale, presents a real opportunity for an innovative, sustainable development, including, I hope, as part of what will be developed in the years ahead, a new hospital near Junction 7 of the M3, and as our work proceeds with Hampshire County Council as the Transport Authority, a mass rapid transport system serving that part of Basingstoke, the new and the existing communities, and enabling them to travel into Basingstoke town centre and other public transport hubs. So unless, Andrew, you've got anything else that you would wish to add at this point, I'll leave it at that.
No, I think you summed that up very well, Councillor Isaac. We will add obviously some further detail around some of the issues in the confidential item, because I think that will just help us explain some of the issues that we're exploring at the moment, and we'll pick that up in that item.
Wonderful, thank you. Questions? Any questions? I can't see any hands up, so if anybody has got a question, no questions at all? In which case, if there are no questions at all, I don't believe we actually need to go into private session. Would you agree with that, Andrew?
Well, we have a presentation, Chair, in to take members through in private session.
Okay.
I mean, the presentation was attached to the pack as your pink papers.
Okay, fine, thank you. In that case, we do need to go. There are no questions at the moment, but so we do need to go into private session. So I need to agree with members that the meeting is.
Sorry, Chair, sorry
Sorry.
to interrupt. We're going to do the private session after
Sorry,
the
my
work
mis-
programme, so
Bernie,
as
my
we've got
mistake.
Mr Lee still.
Yeah. Okay, item 8. Yeah, my mistake, Bernie. Thank you for correcting me. Right, review of the work programme. And I think once again, we have Mr Lee to speak. If you're there, Mr Lee.
I am still here. Can you hear me
Thank
this time, all right?
Loud and clear. Once again, you have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'm kind of going to do this a bit more on the fly this time because you actually announced that the HCC education representative was going to attend the next meeting. I just wanted to draw members, because I thank Bernadette for speaking to me last week on this. The minutes of the meeting for the last meeting said that the HCC representative would be invited to this meeting, and the minutes for the previous meeting also stated that at the October meeting, a representative would be invited to the February meeting, and yet we still haven't seen a representative from HCC Education Authority come to this meeting to discuss the issue of secondary school education on Manydown. And this is really the point, Councillor Isaac, is around not listening, is that what do I need to do to get that person down here so that we can start questioning them about why it's only land for and not a firm commitment for that secondary school. And on the point of listening, it points out that, you know, you've invited me to a meeting where we can discuss these sorts of things. We had a meeting before the last Manydown Overview Committee with the officers, and it was discussed that we would that the phasing of the primary schools would be looked at, and yet the primary schools are still in phase 1. Well, one of the primary schools is still in phase 1. So this is why I have no faith in being listened to, and this is why residents have no faith in being listened to. We've got no HCC education member here, as per the previous minutes and the minutes before, and the plans still say primary school in phase 1. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd like to respond, Councillor Isaac.
Yes, no, I sympathise with the point you're making, Mr. Lee, and I think a representative from Hampshire County Council as the education authority, because it's not Basingstoke and Dean, some may regret that, but that he was unable to attend for family reasons. I'm not in a position to instruct officers from Hampshire County Council to attend these committees. They are invited. I am pleased to hear, nevertheless, that we seem to have an undertaking from or there's an acceptance by a relevant officer from Hampshire County Council to come to the next mock meeting, and I hope you'll be able to attend that. Because I think it's important that these sorts of questions are aired, and we hear what the county council proposes to do in relation to education at Manydown, and so I hope that will take place. But do be aware of the limits of my influence on things.
Thank you for that. Right. I don't think, has anybody got any questions for Mr. Lee? No, I don't see any hands. So, Andrew, if you could confirm the work programme. I've actually got sort of 3 things. One is to, as much as you can, make absolutely sure we have this speaker. Mr. Lee is correct. It has slipped several meetings now. We need information on the Manydown standard and more information on direction we're going with management of the country park. What else have you got?
Thank you, Chair. The full programme is attached as part of the paper. So I'm just trying to bring that up. So we have set out, included in the October would be the education update, which, as I said, I've had confirmation by a senior officer that they will be attending the 14th of October meeting of MOC. We will do clearly further project updates for you, but they will be in a slightly revised format in terms of being factual around current activities rather than looking back as we have done in terms of the timeline relating to the activities on the north, but bringing forward clearly where we are with the section 106 and the progress on the completion. The other elements that will be key topics for October, we have identified the planning strategy for delivery. So we would certainly, working with DevCo, is being able to bring forward an update on that planning strategy. Similarly, with the work on comms and engagement, Country Park and the Manydown standard. There is some other work that is also progressing within the team that is looking at gypsy and traveller provision, the affordable housing prospectus and estate management of both the land that will be retained by the councils in the north and the ongoing management of the land south. So there will be quite an intensive agenda for October as we're building up now in terms of some of the key elements of work that will be coming forward.
Thank you. That's the work programme dealt with. So if everybody's in agreement, we do need to now the meeting now needs to become confidential by passing the following motion. I've got to read this again. That pursuant to section 100(a)(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the remainder of the meeting on the ground that the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing it, and therefore that exempt information is likely to be disclosed as defined in the appropriate paragraph 3 of Schedule 12A of the Act. Right, can we now, this is to discuss papers whilst the webcast is turned off, and it will be turned back on when the discussion is over. We don't have any public here because we're not here.